Hey, welcome to Better Assholes, and I'm your host, Sean. We are having a weird kind of day here because, as you know, as we've discussed, as I mentioned in the last little episode here, our last little trailer, Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of Canada, has resigned. And she finally realized that the government she was working for, or the man she's working for, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, is practically just a moron. So Canadians have had so many issues in the last 9 years to deal with. Under the previous government, people had prosperity. People were able to afford homes. Everybody had a job. I mean, it was at a point where people would just job hunt, be job hunting all the time, hop from job to job. You were always expected you'd be making more money and afford new things. Inflation was down. The cost of living was down. So it was nice. You could have a normal job and afford things. Ever since Trudeau came in 9 years ago, it's been nothing but ongoing unaffordability when it comes to housing, when it comes to, cars, just basic things, your everyday necessities, daycare, everything, food, clothing, shelter, everything is skyrocketing. It's enormous. And this doesn't help anybody except, of course, I guess maybe the government employees at the government themselves, right? It helps those people. When you're looking at people that have a lot of ability to not have to have burdens that the regular people have, it does create a lot of tension, and you've seen that over the last few years where, excuse me, the government here is not paying attention to the basic needs of Canadians. Imagine being taxed so high that it's almost not worthwhile in some cases to do specific things. I've heard about people not working certain careers, not going into certain, upgrades of their careers, just based on, tax burdens, what they have to look forward to. It's not worth it sometimes, right? Why put on extra work, right? Why become a manager, go up in the ranks and then get nailed back where you're doing more work, getting more pay, but actually pay more taxes? It just makes no sense. So there's been a lot of issues. Most recently, they've announced a capital gains tax. And everybody's up in arms about that. It's really tough when you tend to hear this phrase, tax the rich, tax the rich. And then it's really coming from rich people. There's only rich people telling you to tax the rich. It's very rare that you see poor people doing this because poor people aren't in the government. Somebody like Justin Trudeau with a silver spoon born in his mouth telling you that they need to tax the rich, or Chrystia Freeland making, close to $500,000 a year, and you're telling people, well, we got to tax the rich. I mean, that's a laugh. You're a joke, right? So what has spawned a lot of this, recent kind of stuff going on, right? Like it's pretty crazy. We have a lot of issues with Trudeau, Trump, taxes, Toronto in itself, the Liberals in themselves, freedom, healthcare, anti-conservatism. There's a lot of anti-gun, anti-male, pro-immigration, pro-woke. It's getting crazy, right? So, as we've seen recently, Trump has been calling Prime Minister Trudeau governor, which is funny. So just previously, he mentioned that, Canada could become a 51st state and Trudeau could be a governor. Trump's mentioned how he didn't like Freeland, found her very toxic, and glad that she's out, and that Trudeau did a good job firing her. So we've had that coming from him. The whole make Canada 51st state has been something we've heard quite a bit recently from Trump. And I think he likes to troll Trudeau, and they have a really bad relationship. No matter what you hear, you got to remember, just a few years back, when Trump was president, last time, before Biden, uh, there was a really rocky relationship. Trump wasn't a big Trudeau fan. Trudeau has a tendency to talk a lot of shit behind people's backs and then act like nothing happened when you confront him, like that type of guy. So that's what Trudeau's like. So they had a rocky relationship. After Trump left office, Trudeau kind of, and his liberal ass monkeys there kind of had this idea where they should, go after the Canadian conservative politics by calling them Trump and maple syrup MAGA and all this stuff. There was a lot of Trump hate, a lot of innuendo about Trump and his government when he was out of power. So seeing Trump come back, I think Trump's going to start looking at some of these, state leaders as adversaries, because these are the people that when he was out of office, they went right after him, had nothing nice to say, shit talked, and now they're trying to kiss his ass now that he's back in power. This is going to be very interesting. Okay. So Trump's been a big issue. And we've had so many issues with freedom. And you saw that during COVID and, a bit of protests that saw people get their savings and bank accounts taken away and frozen, people jailed, people held, people fired. So that's kind of been a big issue as well in this government, where they are very much anti-freedom. It's Big Daddy Trudeau knows what's good for you, and you better follow what Trudeau and the Liberals have to say and how they have to lead your lives, or else you're a bad person. And we saw that a lot in the you need a COVID vaccine, or you're a criminal, you're a bad person, right? We've seen that with the conservative movement. Well, if you're a conservative, you're a bad person, you're a racist, alt-right, right? We've talked about a lot of issues with that government. Everybody's a racist, right? It was just out of hand. Freedom's been an issue. Healthcare, a lot of people talk about healthcare being a provincial issue. It is provincial issue. However, a lot of the funding does come from Ottawa. It comes from the federal government. A lot of issues like COVID, that really should have been a national strategy. And if it was, it failed, right? Because really, you want the whole entire country, when you lead a country, your party leads a country, you want to still be able to govern certain aspects of, your healthcare system. So if one province in Canada said, well, we don't believe in anything, we are an anarchist province, go stuff it, guys, at some point, and they decide not to buy vaccines or whatever, then that puts the rest of the country in a bad spot. So as we saw, I mean, the vaccine strategy, that was something that was federal, and a lot of healthcare when it comes to, vaccines and national, illnesses, something that's, can affect anybody in Canada, lots of these things, measles, tuberculosis, whatever, federal strategy. But all in all, I mean, this is something that should be looked at, because part of the problem, and this goes back to another issue here, is immigration. You want to make sure, if you're going to invite people into your country, whether it's for school, vacation, for living, whatever, you want to make sure you have infrastructure. So if you don't have infrastructure, you have a problem. And that's where Canada has one of its biggest weaknesses, is the government, Trudeau, went and opened up immigration to millions upon millions upon millions of international students and other people. Refugees, international students, Ukraine refugees. Every time there's an issue in the world, we open up our doors and we say, hey, everybody, come on in. We'll give you money and somewhere to stay. And so that's where we are now, in that spot. And it doesn't create any benefits for us, because what we've done now is that we've built a hospital for a specific, area in a municipality, in a city. So you say, okay, this hospital, we could deal with this city of 50,000 people. In that city over there, we could build another hospital. It could deal with about 100,000 people. And, they allocate, just like schools, just like everything else. They build, accommodate what they believe is going to be the trend and demographic in the next 10 years or whatever, 20 years. So they say, well, we'll build a hospital, and at least it will suit us based on our or surveys here, it should be good for the next 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. When your population goes from your estimate of growing, say, 1% a year, 2% a year, whatever, and all of a sudden you have 1 million people that just walked into Canada and 10,000 people just landed in your city of 50,000 people, you really got to adjust that, right? Because now those people don't have healthcare, they don't have doctors. We don't have people that specialize now in some of these foreign languages. Doctors can't understand the people that are here. Sometimes we get doctors that you don't understand. So that creates a problem as well. But we have a huge bottleneck, and a lot of people that come from other countries usually come with health issues because they're coming from countries that don't have healthcare. So now we invite millions of people in and they go right to the hospital and clog it up. So the federal government should really be working on that issue because deep down they let in all those people. They didn't let guidelines. So we should have guidelines that say you coming into the country are not allowed to go straight downtown Toronto and live. Go to Quebec City, go to Montreal, go to Calgary, right? Because those are main cities. So a lot of these people, they come, they have no money, they have no jobs, they have no education, they have no training. And so going in the major city that doesn't offer any advantage to you creates a problem, right? So, we have a few problems here. You look at as we said, there's a great anti-gun sentiment. They're pulling guns now. They've adding if you have a gun, it's on a list. They want to come and take your guns, right? That's part of the anti-conservative. They're trying to rush to do this because the government's falling apart. So last thing they wanted is a revolt of conservatives. So now, you know, everybody's an alt-right, everybody's racist. They're coming to get your guns. If you're a man, it's bad. There's the whole government doesn't hire men. If you're white, it's even worse. A white man doesn't get hired for anything. If you're a man, you don't get hired for anything. Being straight, you don't get hired for anything. These are basically you go on the Canadian government site, look in the careers options, and find yourself a career that allows for males uh, that are white and straight, and it will not happen, right? And I'm not saying I'm a white male, but this is not how things go. This is people didn't regardless of your race, your culture, or your whatever. This is nobody fought this hard, whether it was black people, Asian people, white people, Irish people, whatever. Nobody fought this hard to have such an imbalance, and you know whether there's a lot of racist people out there, a lot of pro whatever people. You know what? At the end of the day, if you could do a job, you should be able to get that job if you could perform it good. And that's what we need nowadays because everything's bullshit. If you look out there, nothing gets done because we hire the wrong people. We hire people that can't do a job, that can't work, that don't want to do something just because, we want to be very inclusive. And that doesn't work because we don't want that stuff. We want stuff that works, right? When I go to the hospital, I want a doctor that is a really, really good doctor that earned their way to being a doctor and not somebody that's just sitting there because they look like somebody that should be a doctor. Meaning, in today's world, if we're glamorizing, women or minorities or, midgets or people in wheelchairs, I don't want the trend. I just want whoever could do the best jobs. Whether you're woman, black, Mexican, a Ninja Turtle, as long as you could do the best job, that's who I want. I don't care. I don't care about anything else. I'm not taking you home with me. I'm not marrying you. We're not becoming best friends. I don't care what you look like. I don't care whatever. I just want, if I'm sick and you're a doctor, I just want to be fixed. If you're building shit, you do a good job. That's all I want. If you're cooking my food, be able to cook. I don't give a fuck what you look like. It makes no difference to me. right? So that's part of the problem there, right? So this whole place is fucked up. So I don't know. I think we just went into a rant here, and it's good stuff. But yeah, so Canada's kind of gone downhill. All the shit right now. The Liberals are panicking because basically Trudeau's a joke and he should resign, but they don't want him to resign. Half of, I guess, their cabinet, because those guys are getting good paychecks. So when you're getting a good paycheck, you don't want to, vote out your boss that's giving you the good paycheck, or you're going to find yourself unemployed. So that's what they're avoiding. That's bloody ridiculous. Okay. And then, so to make it worse, what makes it worse is that, the Conservative Party seems like they would do a very, very good job, and they have exactly what it takes. Most of Canada, the problem is that there's a small minority of course, feminists, LGBT, and activists as normal that, they like stuff going in a certain way. And so at this point, just like my other stuff, I don't care who you sleep with, I don't care what color you are, or what religion you are, or any of that stuff. I just want stuff to go and work, and I want to get on with my life and my day. So, yeah, that seems to be a big problem as well with this place. What are you going to do? And you know, that's a, Canadian nightmare, Canadian reality. So, what's the plan? The plan is to get Trudeau to resign, to call an election, to vote in, Pierre from the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, and to get Canada back on the track. Can we get Canada back on the track? No, we're fucked, because I think we're not going to be able to get this thing going. We're fucked. You know what? Here's the problem. We let in all these immigrants. So, and this isn't anti-immigrant talk. Okay, so let's rephrase that. We didn't let in a bunch of immigrants. What we did was we let in a bunch of scam artists pretending to be international students. We basically got tricked by a whole bunch of human smugglers in India. Their accomplices, which are basically immigration attorneys in Canada, which are all, as well, people with fake diplomas and fake degrees that are scam artists, human smugglers from India. And all these human smugglers from India are basically smuggling people into Canada under the guise of international students. And when you look at people that are international students, the last thing you think about are a bunch of 40-year-old men and 30-year-old men sitting in a strip mall on a bunch of folding chairs, listening to some other, you know, immigrant with no degree, teaching you a class that's basically a bullshit class. So you can get a bullshit degree from a bullshit school, which that you're doing, because obviously if other people, you drive by university and you go, oh yeah, that's University of Toronto, and you wake up every morning and you go to school and it's in a strip mall and it's a number of 2 rooms and people are sitting on the floor, that you're not in a real university, right? Like, so obviously scam artists are helping scam artists come to this country, scam permanent residency, scam jobs. They're actually paying for jobs, so they're scamming everything. And so that's going to be a real big issue unless they are able to track down and deport well over maybe 3 or 4 million people. And, there's a lot of numbers there, but we're talking all these other people are not going home. Like, so we have the international students. Okay, they need to go. The Ukrainians, they don't want to be here. Most of the Ukrainians that I've met don't like being here and they want to leave. So that's, another given when you want to go back to a war-torn country because you don't like Canada. Well, those guys want to leave. You know, you got them guys. You had a lot of Africans that crossed over as refugees in Quebec, right across the land border. And I mean, those guys, I don't even see a lot of them. And I think a lot of the problem is you don't see anything. You see mostly I think of Toronto, one of the big groups you see Filipinos, they're huge in places like Toronto, but they're not as prolific as the Indians. You tend to see them more. The Filipinos not know what they're doing. It's almost like a scam in itself as well. But they're smart. They come in here. They'll work whatever jobs. They'll lay low, make their money, send it back home. Get a family over there, get a family over here, lay low, whatever. Right? You don't even notice. It's a whole other story with a lot of other groups. So let's not even get on that because we don't want to turn this into an anti-immigrant or an anti, anything that looks seems racist or disagreeable. We're just saying, and I'm just saying that I love the multiculturalism of I used to love the multiculturalism of Toronto. It used to be, something you'd aspire to, right? So we would spend time hanging out downtown Toronto, and you'd meet so many cool people, eat all sorts of foods, etc., etc. Right? And now it's a whole other story, right? It's just like kind of one culture, one people displaced everybody, and it's a different Canada, right? So problem there. So Canada, I mean, basically, as you see, Canada's kind of at a point where we've gone into a complete, you know, kind of tailspin here. So we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to let you know what's going on. Maybe rant a little in some upcoming days, but we'll see. You have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, guys, stay better assholes.